meeting to order. It is Tuesday, October 20th, and it is 5 p.m. Click.
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 8th, 2020, by the emailing of a copy of said notice to the Asbury Park Press, Tri-Town News, and Star Ledger, information and publication on January 8th, 2020, by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 8th, 2020. The public will be allowed to attend and allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law and the Emergency Remote Meeting Protocol for local public bodies. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127, NJAC 17:27. Please take notice that this meeting is being recorded for possible future broadcast on Howell Television. Mr. Bonovich?
Present.
Ms. Richmond is absent this evening. Mr. Russo?
Here.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Here.
Mayor Berger?
Present.
Mayor, if I can interject quickly, we're going out of our usual format as the local finance notice that just came out. The governing body needs to pass a resolution adopting certain rules and regulations for how we're conducting Zoom meetings. That's why this resolution is posted on number 3 on the agenda. So the governing body passes that, we can proceed with our meeting as planned.
I'll make a motion to accept R2030.
It doesn't have a number yet, but it will.
Oh, well, I thought X, okay. All right, R20XXX.
X-rated.
Was that a second, John? I didn't hear.
I second it, yeah.
All right.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Can we please say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
And justice.
and justice for all. Thank you. And I'm sitting down, but I would like to come back here and ask for a moment of silence for our fallen heroes and for the people who have passed due to COVID. Thank you. Okay. There's a couple things that I wanted to talk about. Brian, I've been driving these streets a lot lately and they are horrible. The roads, I can't hear you.
No, I just said okay. That's
What?
I said okay.
Okay, but
acknowledging your.
are they going to get fixed?
If you want to give me specific roads, I'll look into it and get responses to you. I know we have several paving projects that are coming up. Some of those I was going to mention in my report.
Well, I mean, when they closed the road, they didn't pave it correctly. Why wouldn't they fix that?
Which road are you talking about?
So,
certain roads, if they're...
Maxim looks terrible. It drives terrible. Old Tavern drives terrible. I remember the other 3 streets. I'm sorry, I can't remember them.
So some of those I was going to address in my report. Those roads had pipe work done, so they need to install the pipes. They do a temporary paving job and they wait a few months to allow the ground to settle. If they were to do the permanent paving right after that work, the roads would be disaster.
Okay.
So actually some of those roads you mentioned are scheduled to be have paving starting in early November.
Can we have Justin post that on the website?
Sure.
Could you update us on the negotiations with Altice and Optimum?
Okay. We just had a meeting this past week with Altice representatives. I was a little disappointed that they were trying to pass the blame to a lot of the residents. And understandably, with everyone being at home, their network is being overloaded. However, that's no excuse. You know, the residents are still paying for the service. So they are looking into if there's pockets where there's higher complaints. To date, the complaint system that we created on our website, we're up to 637 complaints logged into our system. I'm going to be putting that out on our website again, just to try and capture anybody that we haven't gotten yet. Additionally, Councilwoman Richmond had made a contact with somebody at Verizon and had set up a meeting. So we met with some representatives from Verizon to discuss about them expanding their Fios network here in town. They have a process to go through their capital expenditure program. However, they were very receptive in working with us to try and roll out more services here in town. So at least there'll be some competition or alternatives to Altice. And since we have Andy here, he's been helping us out as his firm was helping with the negotiations. I believe somebody in his firm has certain expertise with cable services.
But my other question is, are they offering at least to even update their system? I mean, it needs the infrastructure. It needs to be updated dramatically.
I agree completely. And that's what we're trying to force them to do. Right now, they're looking at, you know, where all the complaints are coming in. Are they like pockets of areas so they can prioritize their work?
Andy, can you explain the difference between the negotiations with Altice versus Verizon? Verizon's going through the BPU, but Altice is coming directly to us.
Right. So Altice, as they've asked for, you had an ordinance in place that set forth the terms by which their franchise was given. And so we've been, Joe, Brian, and I have been in contact or discussions with them by which the terms under which Howell would, consider re-upping the franchise. If we don't reach an agreement, we can oppose, or you could actually adopt an ordinance declining to re-up the franchise. They would go to the BPU. Either way, but they would go to the BPU under that circumstance, just looking for approval without our agreement. But we've been working on trying to get some additional benefits to the township and its residents that currently are not in effect in terms of those discussions. And in terms of Verizon, they're before the BPU because they have that area. They have an area of Howell by which they have an exclusive right to provide that service. We can also, if we don't, we can oppose their request before the BPU. But again, I know we've been trying to work with them to avoid that. So they don't require an approval through municipal ordinance in terms of their status before the BPU.
Have other townships lost that? Say we turned them down and they went to the BPU. Have other townships done that, and do they lose the franchise fee?
Well, you would probably get what was in effect at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you would lose the fee, but you know, it's more of a state honest. Well, I don't want to give legal advice in public,
Yeah, I
but
got you.
yeah,
Okay, just curious.
yeah.
Brian, I
If I
want
can
to thank
comment on one more.
that resolution, the 9834. I appreciate you putting that on, because I always think that if we tell them we don't want to pay the fee that they're charging, then maybe they'll understand how disappointed our community is. So thank you for doing that.
Right. I was just going to comment. Evelyn had asked me to add this agenda item to the agenda where we're formalizing a complaint to BPU, the governing body, should you pass it, and asking them to reduce their rates for our residents due to the diminished service. On another note, that needs to be moved out of the consent agenda because one of the council people does have a conflict voting on it.
The 9834 is removed from consent.
Yes, that'll require a separate vote.
Okay.
And just to clarify to the public, my wife, who is an Altice employee technically, I have to abstain, or I have to, I guess, what will the procedure be, Joe?
So yeah, you would abstain from voting on it.
Okay, okay.
Pick you up.
So I also wanted to bring up, I was on near Equestra where the new Toll Brothers is going. And I've been talking to the people of Equestra and just looking at the logistics there. I think it's really important for us to maybe relook at that whole circle.
Okay.
I think that the volume might cause a bit of a disaster there. I think it might need a light.
That's 33. It's 33. Do we need a DOT on that, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, so let's put a request in.
We'll take care of that.
And I want to say the farmers market was amazing. There was so many vendors there. It was so nice to see, and they're really into it. I asked Joan if she would talk to Southern, because they do Christmas trees and they do wreaths. So I think that might be a good connection, that maybe they could do it at the same time, and there might be additional parking if we had both sides. So if you want to maybe talk about that at the meeting, Joe, I thought that would be a great community event with the two organizations.
Okay.
At this point, I'm going to open up to the elected officials. Deputy Mayor?
Excuse me,
Well, we spoke about a couple of things that I was going to say.
I'm sorry. What, Allison?
I'm so sorry. I didn't want to interrupt. I just don't want to get too far ahead before we go ahead and vote on the minutes from September 15th.
Yeah, we skipped the minutes.
Forgive me. Forgive me.
No problem.
May I have a motion to accept the minutes of September 15, 2020? Is that a no?
Sorry, Mayor. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes, Mayor.
May I have a
September
second?
15th, that's correct, yeah.
I'll
What's
second.
that?
John, you second?
Second, because that's for September 15th, correct, Tommy?
Yes.
Correct, on the agenda.
September 15.
Second,
Thank you.
Mr. Bonovich?
yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I would want to continue. I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, please.
So we've gone over a couple of things that I wanted to speak about, so we've covered that. The other thing that I think is important is October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. and can never say that enough to people about early detection for not only women, but men. Very important. So, because I am here because of early detection, so I appreciate that, that portion of life. The other thing too is I had given, I don't know if it was Mr. Clark or not, a card on one of the solar companies, Mr. Geegan. I was wondering, were you able to get that card from whomever?
Did not get it from him yet. He mentioned it to me.
Okay.
He mentioned it to me.
I will get you another. Because of the program that the schools did, and I had gotten the inference that Mr. Stanisak felt that it may not be as beneficial for us as it was for them, I thought maybe we could at least investigate another, another possibility. Even if we started with a municipal building, that would be a good savings. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Bonovich?
No, you touched on everything. I'm just really glad we're putting this, you know, we have the Andy here to talk about Altice, and we're moving forward with that. We definitely got to work on the service. I mean, you know, I'm lucky that I'm on Verizon because I'd probably cut out right now if I had Altice.
Councilman Russo.
Thank you, Mayor. So yesterday I attended the Optimist Club annual golf outing. As usual, it was a huge success, and it was really nice to see the attendance from all the golfers. And you know, given the you know, the uncertain times, the Optimist Club does so much for our youth and for our community. And I want to just give a special shout out to John Aliano, the president, and all their members and leadership that put on the event and that continue to operate the Optimist Clubs to a high level. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gehethan?
Yes, Mayor. Covered a few things already, but just to reiterate, agenda item 9A34 needs to be agenda item 9A29 table.
There's a lot of echo. I can't hear anything. So I'm going to suggest that everybody put mute.
Okay. Is this any better?
You're good.
Okay. Okay. 9A29 is being tabled to be considered at a future meeting. Regarding some of the paving projects, we paving streets on the west side of the water company project for around Locust. Work is complete and paving will continue.
Brian, not good.
The echo.
You were underwater for that whole discussion.
Okay. Okay. I'll turn my volume off completely. Is this any better?
You have your phone and the computer working?
No. No.
Because when you say, you just said no, and it was like a 2-second delay, and then it was loud. So it's somehow capturing you twice.
I would recommend if everyone turns their volume down. I don't know if your speakers are picking up on the microphone.
Well, for sure, everybody in your building.
Okay. Moving on, the water company's starting their next phase in Candlewood with our contractor completing the concrete work, curbing and aprons. They'll be milling and paving throughout several streets in Candlewood. On tonight's agenda, there's 2 resolutions for an energy auction. That was conducted today. You may recall we did it 2 years ago, the last time. The estimated savings from today's auction, assuming these resolutions get passed, our buildings will see a savings of approximately $7,300 over the next 24 months. And our streetlights will have a savings of about $25,865 over the next 60 months. Additionally, back on September 24th, we had our bond sale to permanently finance a lot of our bands that were outstanding. We received 9 bids in total. The winning bid was for a net interest cost of 1.4507%. So it came in a lot lower than we had anticipated. The township received $2.432 million in bond premiums, which we're immediately applying to our principal to pay down the debt. And then the only other thing on for discussion is our best practices checklist. Thanks to the work of Lou Palazzo, who did the vast majority of that. We need to address any questions that the governing body may have as part of the requirement for it, but we were able to score enough points that we should not have any reduction in our state aid. And that is all I have, Mayor.
Sorry, thank you. Mr. Clark?
You want to unmute?
Nothing for me this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Palazzo?
Nothing for me either, Mayor.
Okay.
Lou, you did a good job again this year on that report.
I have a question for Lou before we start.
Please. Yeah.
All right, Lou, it's been over a month since our last meeting. The refunding bonds, I think last time you said we're at 2%. Can you tell us what percent we're at now? Are we doing
the refunding
better than the 2%?
I haven't been given any information from the financial advisor that there has been any significant uptick in the rate. So we should be looking at, you know, a favorable rate once we get to take that refunding to market.
Okay, so we're still saving about, we said, I think it was it 263,000 or 363,000 in debt services for 2021, if this passes?
Well, correct. Yes, the permanent financing of the bond anticipation notes, the net interest cost came in less than we had anticipated. The total effect on the 2021 debt service will be minimal, but we also do have the refunding bond ordinance that we should be taking to market, which will also give us savings on the 2021 debt service.
So are we over 300,000, or was it the 200,000 amount you spoke of? I don't know that I heard it.
Correct. So the way that the bond deal settled, the interest that is owed in the first year is going to be slightly higher than that was first projected. So there is a slight increase in debt service for 2021, but it is minimal to the point where it's less than $10,000. And as I said, we should be realizing a savings for the refunding bond debt service. So that should bring us into a net decrease for bond service for 2021.
Okay. And overall, the length of the bond was saving about $1 million on top of that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. It's been a while.
Okay. Allison, do you have the proclamation for breast cancer awareness?
I do have it.
Would you read it, please?
Sure. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas breast cancer touches the lives of Americans from every background and in every community across our nation, and whereas an estimated 276,480 women have been diagnosed with breast cancer this year, and tens of thousands are expected to lose their lives to the disease. And whereas during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we honor those we have lost, lend our strength to those who carry on the fight, and pledge to educate ourselves and our loved ones about this tragic disease. And whereas, though the exact causes of breast cancer are unknown, understanding its risk factors is essential to prevention. Early detection is also key in the fight against breast cancer. And whereas during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we stand with the mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, and friends who have been affected by breast cancer and recognize the ongoing efforts of dedicated advocates, researchers, and healthcare providers who strive each day to defeat this terrible disease. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about prevention and treatment of this potentially life-altering illness. Now, therefore, I, Teresa Berger, Mayor of the Township of Howell, on behalf of the Township Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Township of Howell and urge our citizens to work together to increase awareness and support education and research.
Thank you very much. Did you want to talk about the best practices 2020, Brian or Lou?
Well, there was paperwork and all your backup for the council to review.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you wanted to just mention it a little bit so the people listening could.
This is something that we complete every year. It's a lot of financial questions, how the township operates. This year they did have some questions specific to COVID and how that affected our operations and our finances. And as always, we were able to score very highly. Your answers are rated and you need to score a minimum number of points in order to qualify for state aid. If you don't reach a certain number, they start to reduce the aid that's given. But once again, we're maxed out with the aid that we can get.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Okay. Would you think it would be a good idea to post that on our website, or do you feel that that information could be easily just given, you know, it's a few pages, but.
Once the best practices inventory is finalized every year, I make sure that it's put in the financial documents section of the website.
Thank you.
Right.
Perfect.
Okay, so I guess at this time, let me say, everybody can hear me, right, Brian? That's out there. So I'm going to say this is our first Zoom call. So if we have a glitch, please bear with us so that we can, you know, get through this one the first time. And if we need to continue this way, at least we'll have lessons learned, right? So I guess at this point, I would like to open this portion of the meeting of hearing of the citizens. So Brian.
Okay, Mayor. As you're aware, we've opened it up to a few different forums. We still accepted emails through the public access at twp.howell email address. I've gotten 3 responses by email. Once I read those into the record, if anyone wants to respond, feel free to chime in. Then anybody monitoring the meeting can click on your button to raise your hand. I'll bring them into the meeting room. They can address the governing body. You can respond as appropriate. I'll then move them out and move on to the next person. So moving on to the email comments. The first is from a Nicholas Ficarelli II, resident of Howell. Good afternoon. This is the first time I'm writing to all council regarding a public meeting. I would like to take this time to talk about the service franchise agreement the town has with Optimum Altice. It has come to our attention that as of now, there are negotiations going on regarding our agreement. However, it is deeply concerning that the manager of our town has had to hire outside special counsel to handle such negotiations when we have a town attorney that should be handling for us. It has also come to our attention that other towns have moved forward on filing official complaints with the BPU, whereas our township manager has not made such a move, again, relying on outside special counsel to handle for us. And yes, Councilwoman O'Donnell, we know about the sliver of town that has access to Xfinity. Unfortunately, 99% do not have access to that possibly better service. And about 60 to 70% of the town still has no access to Verizon Fios, which is much more superior than Optimum Altice. This is, once again, deeply concerning that this issue is not transparent with the goings-on as to this matter. I ask the council to please look into this and get back to us in a transparent way regarding the Optimum Altice issue. Thank you for your time on this matter, Nicholas Piccarelli. I think we've covered this, the status. There is a resolution before the council to file an official complaint with BPU. I'm assuming that's what he was referring to. Next comment was from Barbara Dixell, received via fax. Resolution 9829, authorized acceptance of performance guarantee, SAL Homes, Block 143, lots 23 and 24, U.S. Highway Route 9 North Planning Board, case SP 1013. Why is this on the agenda tonight? The Planning Board originally gave SL Homes preliminary approval for Woodlands Management to clear cut the site. The village has sued SL Homes, and Mrs. Dixell believes the township went to Superior Court with Judge Linda Grasso Jones, and the villages won the right to start the case over from the beginning. The villages changed management companies and then COVID hit. Mrs. Dixell has no idea where they stand. She asked the Monmouth County Planning Board for information, and she called the lawyer's office for information. Please take 9A29 off tonight's agenda until we can get more information to clear this up. That was the resolution that was pulled from tonight's agenda. The last comment received by email is from John Hughes, Township President. Mayor Berger and council members, I am aware of Councilwoman Richmond violating the Township of Howell Code of Conduct. Councilwoman Richmond has violated 5 of the 6 core principles included within the code through aggressive attempts to silence residents that oppose her viewpoint. She has openly mocked the mentally challenged. She has attempted to body shame residents and political opponents and failed to act with civility to others. Her actions violate principle 2, creating an atmosphere of respect and civility. Principle 3, conducting personal and public affairs with respect for others. Principle 4, respecting the dignity and privacy of individuals. Principle 5, avoiding and discouraging conduct which is divisive and harmful to the best interests of Howell. And principle 6, treating people the way she wants to be treated. Code does not make clear the procedures for filing a complaint for these violations and where to send the evidence. I am asking for the council to provide a clear explanation of how to file the complaint. And I am calling on the other members of the council and mayor to vote on a censure of Councilwoman Richmond for conduct unbecoming of an elected official. Thank you, John Hughes.
At this point, I would ask that our legal counsel review the situation, review all the information that was given, and see, and please ensure that everybody is in true, in fact, following the ethics code.
Okay, I will forward this information.
That's my thought. Ronovich or Mr. Russo, Deputy Mayor. I mean, what do you think?
I'm sure there's a protocol to follow, so that we should be doing. I wasn't aware that there was evidence submitted as of today, but if the protocol requires that whatever the evidentiary information is, then I guess it goes to Mr. Clark and then determinations are made. Actually, I don't think we've ever run into this before, but I'm sure there's an ethics, litany of rules and regs. How to handle it.
We have not run into this before, so if Mr. Hughes wants to send the specifics to me, I'll be happy to look at them and we can take it from there. Without knowing more right at this point, I can't really say what the next step should be.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor. That is all I had emailed in.
Brian.
Brian, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
That is all I've had for emailed comments. If any of the members of the public that are watching this meeting, you could click the button to raise your hand. You can address the council. And I have no members of the public raising their hand. Oh,
We got
hold
one.
on.
There's 14. We got one. I see your hand.
Yep.
How do you see it? I can't
Where is
see it.
Ah, magic.
As the moderator, I can see it.
Oh, it's a
You can
trick.
see it if you click
I
participant.
can't see it.
Oh, yeah, participant.
Okay, I've just moved Miss Kathy Novak into the room. If you could state your name and address, and you can address the governing body.
My name is, I can't see, can you see me?
No, turn your video on, Kathy.
Oh, thank you.
We
I
can
don't know
hear
where to
you.
go
We can
to
see
do
you.
that. Let's
It's
see.
at the top of the screen. Look at the top of your screen, the
Right.
right-hand side.
It says speaker view.
Yeah, see, it, you know, I do this all the time, Zoom, and it's not there for this particular setup.
So just tap it, tap it. If you
know, I do Zoom. I've been doing it since COVID shutdown, and oh, wait a minute. Let's see. It said, wait a minute. I'm wrong. Let me see if I can put my video on. Audio.
It's a different format. It's a webinar format, right, Brian?
Microphone.
Kathy, we're able to hear you if you want to
yeah, if
proceed
you
with
want to
your
just
questions.
Well, it's very odd. It's very odd to not be able to see me, but I will speak. And I might have missed this from the I didn't get here on the beginning of the meeting. So if you spoke about it, I apologize, but I was wondering about if you had talked about the parks and the closure of the parks, and I understand what has happened and how it was handled, and I'm just wondering if there has been any more discussion about how to handle something like this in the future, or how to be proactive and to prevent something like this in the future. If you know, I can't see that this would be an isolated incident.
Well, they were closed based on the number of complaints that were coming into my office from the police department, code enforcement, Office of Emergency Management. Apparently throughout the entire weekend, our parks had a huge volume of people visiting them. The complaints were people were not social distancing, they were not wearing masks when it was appropriate. So the decision was, I made the decision to close the parks. With that point, our DPW was coming up with a plan to sanitize all the high touch areas and the playground areas. By the following night, all of our organized sports teams were allowed to resume their use of the parks. They should actually be complimented on their thorough plans that they all had submitted previously, and they had permitted use. So we allowed them to come back and use their fields, townships fields rather. Going forward, we had a plan for our DPW to begin sanitizing all the equipment, as I said. There was an offer from the Lakewood administrator. He had offered his DPW to assist ours. So I took him up on the offer. It was at no cost to Howell taxpayers. Additionally, their DPW operates a little bit differently. They have various shifts. So they were actually here during some evening and midnight hours to work on it, which worked out better. That way there wasn't people around and in the parks while they're spraying the sanitizing agents. But by the following weekend, everything had been cleaned and they've since been reopened.
I understand all of that, and I commend you on how it was handled. I didn't have any problem with how it was handled, although I will say that I felt very badly for the kids that were on the field ready to start their practice or their game, and they had to leave. It was very sad for me to see that. I saw that because I was on Maxim Road. But my question is, what will happen in the future what are you doing, if anything, any action to be considered to prevent this from happening again like this, where you have to do a hard stop and clear everyone out of the parks? That's my question.
Well, I'm hoping everyone learned from, this, that, they'll be a little bit wiser with their future use. I know Deputy Mayor O'Donnell had reached out to the mayor of Lakewood, asking him to help distribute a message. I believe Mayor Berger, you contacted him as well too, correct?
Yes.
To try and solicit some help from Lakewood to roll out the message to, the residents of their town that frequent our parks. I know a lot of residents had emailed saying that we should limit use of the parks to township residents only. It's completely illegal for us to do that. Other towns have tried that and have lost significant lawsuits over that. So that is not an option, despite what a lot of residents seem to think.
Well, I was not one of those residents. I am full aware of our parks are open to everyone. I've traveled the United States and I've went into many parks, and the parks are open to everyone. But there are rules and regulations for parks that have to be enforced. And if there is no one to enforce them, for example, the county parks have park rangers. And I can tell you, in COVID time, the police are far too busy to be doing something like controlling situations at parks. And that's how it's been for the past several years that I've been looking at this situation. I'm asking you as a township manager to do something in the future for our parks. And I'm not suggesting that you keep people out. I want to let everyone in. That's who I am. Okay? But I also want people to respect our parks and the people who are there using them. And it's particularly important during COVID times, especially since the numbers are up in Lakewood, for people in crowds not wearing masks or distancing. It's unacceptable. So I just would like you to look at it and figure something out. It's nice that they cleaned our parks, but you know what? It's not enough. I don't really want them cleaning our parks, to tell you the truth. We need to be better with our open space and our parks, and we haven't done it. I've complained about this for several years now, so that the Howell residents and everyone who wants to use the parks can enjoy them and have some clean space to do it in and respect one another. So, and some of the parks have different rules and they're not being enforced. So I'm asking you, Mr. Gagan, to come up with a plan for the future for Howell's parks. This was a sad situation for Howell kids who were on the fields and had to leave. I saw it happen. And I really hope that we can do better next time. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
The very next morning, we had a little meeting in Brian's office, and I had asked you, Mr. Geegan, do we have signs up telling people they should be wearing a mask in public? We spoke about that, but I'm not sure that we actually did this. Have we?
There have been signs posted. I am going to have DPW review it because unfortunately, some of them do get vandalized or removed, but the parks had been posted. I'll make sure that those signs are still current.
And the other issue, can you just go through the maneuvering, how the police, what they cannot do in this instance and how their hands are a little bit tied? Because I think it's important that we realize some of the structure is not exactly, working for us.
Sure. So also, law enforcement.
We have county parks as well. The county has to enforce that, or we can enforce that in the county park.
I think the county.
I think the county has to enforce that. Yeah. Right? So, I mean,
I think so, yeah.
should we be reaching out to the county as well? I mean, the reservoir is full in the morning when I walk.
The county would handle enforcement in their parks. As far as the township parks, it would be our law enforcement that would handle it. I've spoken with Chief Kudrick. They've received direction from the prosecutor's office that any COVID violations are supposed to receive permission from the prosecutor's office before they'll approve any charges. In this instance with our parks, I did have law enforcement reach out to the prosecutor's office to ask them for guidance or assistance in this matter. They punted it back to us and said it's township decision whether we're going to close the parks or not, but they would not even entertain a discussion about charging anybody for not wearing a mask. But then we're also faced with,
I'm sorry.
Then we're also faced with the fact of a police officer contacting somebody over wearing a mask and the potential escalation of that to, you know, a far greater problem than it originally was. So we're trying to protect them as well.
I want to back up to it, Kathy, Novak. You know, which you, as far as signage and Evelyn, you brought up the signage. We got to look at that and see where we are and see what's vandalized. But, you know, we have to learn from this last mistake. I mean, yeah, we closed them. You know, Brian, you closed them. And I would suggest that we do not throw a single kid off a field ever again. You know, do it at the end of the day or early in the morning. But we had kids rushing out for practices. You know, that these kids have enough on their plate, and that's their outlet for stress. So I would suggest moving forward that we do not shut them during the day ever again. Do it at the end of the day. Do it at dusk.
And I think to that point, that's why we have to have something in place, Councilman, because, you know, the manager closed them, you know, for safety and, you know, the well-being of everybody. But, you know, the problem still remains if people don't, so if they're not distancing, if they're not wearing a mask, you know, then they are endangering the kids on the field too. It's just, you know, it's such a bad situation, but whatever the answer is.
Chicken or the egg at
Yeah.
this point.
Well,
And I feel bad because the police really almost cannot come in and do something because they don't have the support of the prosecutor's office. And I don't, to me, that just seems so extreme. It just seems to me that if it's health and well-being, an officer should be able to say, you know, please wear a mask. And I understand what escalation, but still, gee, a mask, is it that difficult?
Well, maybe at minimum, if we could just post signs in the parks.
Yeah. That would give us at least a beginning, right?
Ask the county if they'll allow us to post signs in the park, in their parks, or if they're going to do it.
Something.
They have signs. They have directional signs, walk one-way signs around the trails.
Yeah.
So
I would just say signage, and then Brian, just like, let's all learn from this, and, you know, let's organize sports. We can't kick them off the fields ever again. That's it.
That was sad. Very sad.
I agree. And it wasn't an easy decision to make. However, when the volume of complaints that come in, to actually go into a park and separate and say certain people are allowed to leave, others can stay, that would be a nightmare to manage in itself. So that's why I decided we're closing them completely and phasing things back in.
Yep.
And as far as the organized sports teams, it was 20 hours that they were without usage of the park by the time they were granted permission to return. Again, I realized, you know, it was not the best scenario. However, when it's a safety issue, a decision had to be made.
Yep, I agree. I just, you know my point on this. We all agree.
Okay. Are there any other members of the public that wish to address the governing body? I have Jerry Barron. I'm moving him into the room now.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, Jerry.
I can hear you, Mr.
Good. I also came into the meeting late, so I apologize. And I also can't figure out how to get the visual thing up.
That's all right.
It's a little high-tech stuff, I guess. But anyway, I don't know if you did this already or not. Forgive me if I am repeating stuff, but the last negotiating with Cablevision, it was called, and I was on the team that did that 10 years ago or whatever. And I was wondering, you're supposed to have civilians on the team that negotiates with the cable company. Do you have civilians that do that? Are they on the committee? I didn't see any advertisement on the Howell website that said they were volunteers. I just was wondering. Or is it just, you're supposed to have civilians on that one? Do you have any?
I believe there is a time that we will have public input. I don't know if Andy wants to comment on that, if he has any further information.
Yeah, I think through Township Attorney's office, you know, we had some initial discussions, just sort of set the parameters, but when I will, you know, a wider group.
Of course, the actual agreement right there, it says you're supposed to have civilian input on the negotiating team. That's, I'm just asking, are there any civilians on the negotiating team?
Not yet.
But you have negotiations started already, obviously.
Well, let me just say that, I mean, Joe can speak to this, but how, I mean, honestly, Altice had not gotten back to Howell for a very long time. It was hard to get their, Joe through his office was trying to get their attention for more than a year, right, Joe? A couple of years, I think. And then it literally just started happening within the last 30 to 45 days. So it's a relatively new thing. Something prompted them to act.
All the complaints prompted it, I'm sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well,
yeah, no,
that's probably,
yep.
That's
Sorry,
probably part of it, but I had been trying to get in touch with them for over a year to begin renegotiating or discussing the franchise ordinance, and Andy's correct. We hadn't heard back from them, and only recently have we started discussing you know, whether we would be interested in renewing the franchise and under what terms. So to get to Jerry's question, we'll look at it, and when it's time to have civilians on the negotiating portion of it, we will have civilians on the negotiating portion of it.
Will you advertise that on the township website?
It should be like any other board or commission, correct, Joe?
Or do you have to apply for it?
Yes, I would.
We will advertise it on the township website when the time is appropriate.
And then you will have to fill out an application?
We'll do it as we typically do, Jerry.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the public wish to address the governing body?
There's one more, it just came in as a message. You see it on the bottom?
Yeah, I'll get to that in just a second. This is not one of the formats that we were recognizing for public input, but there was a text message that was sent through Zoom. It said, who paid for the overtime of DPW the day Brian decided to close the parks at the end of his workday? I have photos of Howell DPW placing barricades as late as 8 p.m. that night. That was Township paid the overtime, or DPW, just as they would for any other emergency that they get called out for. And I see no other hands raised, Mayor. So if you want to proceed with the meeting.
So there being no one else that wants to speak at this portion of the meeting, we'll close the open, the hearing of citizens, and we'll go down to the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mayor. I'll make the motion to move 9A1 through 9A33.
About 29.
And 24 is removed, so it's 9A1 through 9A33 and also B2. B1, 9B1 is for the Farmers Committee. So make the motion move 9A1 through 9A33 and B2.
Do I have a second?
I would second that, although I do have a question. Aren't we pulling out 29?
29 has been tabled.
Oh, it's just tabled. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll second Mr. Bonavich's motion.
Mr. Russo, did you have a question?
Yes, Mayor. Is the Altice resolution pulled out?
Yes, that's 9A34. That's going to be a separate vote.
Got it.
Okay, so it was Mr. Bonavich with the motion, and Deputy Mayor with the second?
Yes.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Okay. Now forgive me because I just moved a piece of paper and I think.
You'd like, Mayor, now we can do the resolution 9A34 pertaining to Altice.
Thank you, Brian.
I'll make the motion to move 9A34, urge New Jersey Board of Public Utilities to order reduction in service charges for Optimum Altice USA cable service.
I will second that. And again, thank you, Mr. Manager, for including this.
Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Okay, now we have motions. So we have motion 9B1.
B1 was included in that first motion, 9B2.
9B2, 2020 license.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
The other way. Yeah.
So
9B1.
I would like to ask, is there someone for the appointment of this commission?
Yes, I saw the application in our backup. It was Leslie Hallett.
Yes.
I believe. So I'll make a motion to accept her as a new member of the Farmers Advisory Committee.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Okay. Now we need a resolution or a motion requiring separate vote. Authorize Chapter 159 2020 Senior Services Grant for $46,081.
I'll make the motion to move 9C1, authorize Chapter 159 2020 Senior Services Grant for $46,081.
I'll second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. I'm looking for the ordinance. If you just give me 1 second. Or can we deviate a little bit today and someone else read the ordinance? Is that legal, Joe?
Joe, is that legal?
Yeah, we could have somebody do that if
I mean,
yeah,
all I
if they
have is the
they can go ahead and do
explanatory
it.
statement. So
Yeah, that's it.
all I have is really the explanatory statement. Do I just read that and that's it?
Yeah, 10 one was missing from the binder, but it's online.
Oh.
Well, I'm going to read it this way, right? So it's public hearing ordinances 0-20-16, 10.1, refunding bond ordinance series 2013. Introduction on September 15, 2020, public hearing and adoption on October 20, 2020. This ordinance requires 4 affirmative votes. This ordinance provides for the refunding of all or a portion of the callable maturities of the Township's general obligation bonds, series 2013, appropriating an amount not exceeding $16,595,000, therefore, and authorizing the assurance of not to exceed $16,595,000 general obligation refunding bonds for financing the cost thereof. Allison.
No, well, is it okay for someone else to read the statement? I mean, that typically we would read as far as when it was advertised, and
I did
Yeah,
that
you
already.
can go ahead and read that.
I read it already.
Okay.
It was introduction on September 15 and
right.
public hearing and adoption on October 20.
Correct.
Well,
right?
There's just a little details.
So go ahead, Allison.
I can read it. It's no big deal.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Tom, thank you.
Ordinance number 0-20-16 introduced and passed on first reading on 9/15/20 and published according to law is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 9/18/20 is submitted, and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and that copies were available to the general public upon request.
I'll read the title of ordinance.
Thank you.
Refunding bond ordinance of the Township of Howell in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, providing for the refunding of all or a portion of the callable maturities of the Township's general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2013, appropriating an amount not exceeding $16,595,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $16,595,000 general obligation refunding bonds of the Township of Howell for financing the cost thereof. Can we have a motion?
May I have a motion?
You got to open it up.
I'll open up for public discussion. Forgive me.
Okay. Are there any members of the public watching the meeting that wish to comment on this ordinance? If so, please click on the button to raise your hand. I'm not seeing anybody raising their hand to participate, Mayor.
Okay, so I'll close that portion of the meeting. If we can continue.
All right.
Can I?
I'll make the motion that ordinance number 0-20-16 be finally passed, adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 10/23/20 Asbury Park, a reference to its title only.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Introduction of ordinance 0-20-17, 11.1, 2021 salary ordinance, non-union employees. Introduction on October 20, public hearing adoption for November 10. The ordinance updates and amends the salary ordinance for all non-union employees. Would someone make a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance number 0-20-17 on first reading by title, and to order the same be published in the 10/23/20 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 11/10/20 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
Thank you.
Title of ordinance. An ordinance setting forth and amending and supplementing the salary range schedule for the salaries of certain officers and employees of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Do we have any unfinished business? No? Seeing none? Our next meeting date is Tuesday, November 10, 2020. Executive session is at 6:30, regular session is at 7:30. I want to say, everybody, no matter who you're going to vote for, please get out and vote. It's your right, and it's really, you must do it. So please do that. And the one other thing I forgot in the beginning is it is Halloween season. So if we can remember to bring to the food pantry some sweets or maybe costumes or things like that for some of the residents in town, that would be really wonderful. We did get a great response last Sunday. So thank you for that. So at this point, I will ask for an adjournment. May I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Bonovich,
Yes.
Mr. Russo,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mayor Berger.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, everyone who attended, and have a great evening.
Went rather well. Nice job.
It was the best meeting we've had.
Good night.
Yep.
Good night.